This is how I went from making $0 to $10,000 in just 3 months. I lived and worked in Tulsa, Oklahoma for about 2 years. I had a great job, made $30 an hour, and I really liked the people I work with. I ended up quitting that job and moved to Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. I was there working for about a month as a landscape manager, and one day I got a phone call from a roofing sales company. They said, "Van, you come work for us, you'll make $20,000 a month." And right then and there, I turned around, went straight to my boss, and walked out the door. That same day, I went door knocking for the roofing company, and after about 4 hours, I knew that I didn't want to do this either. I knew I was meant for more, so I had to figure something out. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I did know that I could afford to at least go rent a pressure washing trailer, so that's what I did. I rented the trailer for 2 weeks. It cost me $2,000, and I told myself, if I can pay for this trailer rental in this 2 weeks with the work I get, I'll go buy my own, and we'll make this thing work. I used what I learned from the 4-hour-long door knocking job, and I went out and hit the streets. I drove around ready to work. I would offer work for free, trying to get anything I could. So after a few days, it wasn't really picking up, but there was a few people that were willing to let me do jobs for free. Some of them would have me do extra stuff on their house, like one lady had me clean her driveway, and then asked how much it would cost to clean her windows, and that paid a couple $100. A neighbor across the street came over, and he asked me, "Hey man, how much would it cost to remove this stain off the side of my house?" I don't know what that paid, $200 or $300. I was taking anything and everything I could get. One day I walked outside of my apartment, and there was a guy out there with a fishing boat. I struck up a conversation with him, and as we talked, it turns out he was the manager of an HOA that had over 500 homes just down the street from our apartment. He said he needed the koi pond washed over there. We went and looked at it, and it turned out to be a $1,000 job. After the koi pond and a few other small jobs, I had enough money to pay for the rental. At that point, I started looking for my own pressure washing trailer. I found one on Facebook Marketplace for $9,800, and I went ahead and bought it. One day I went to Dallas to get a haircut. As I was walking out, I saw a guy at the back of the building pressure washing. I kind of ignored him, and I went ahead and hopped in my truck, but something told me that I needed to get out and go talk to this guy, so I did. The guy's name was Chris, and Chris owned a commercial carpet cleaning business, and he did pressure washing jobs on the side. But what I didn't know is he was in with all of these big, nice apartment complexes. Chris told me he was going to call me, and about 3 or 4 days later, he did. And Chris hooked me up with all kinds of work. He kept me busy for about a month, and he got me going. So Chris, if you're watching this, I appreciate you, man. One of the main points I want to make about this is that connections are everything. About a year later, Chris got me into a $60,000 job down in Austin, Texas, and that $60,000 was made in less than a month. Connections are huge. I found out pretty quick that jumping around to different jobs is pretty inconsistent. The residential apartment jobs and everything I was doing for Chris was just kind of hit and miss, and I knew that if I was going to make this work, I had to have something more consistent. And that's when I found fleet washing. So when I found that, it clicked in my head, and I said, man, this is going to be awesome, because every single time you go wash a truck, in a week or 2 weeks later, you're going to go back and wash that same exact truck again. So it's reoccurring revenue. So I went ahead and purchased two-step equipment and chemicals to get the job done right. I washed a few small fleets around Dallas a couple times, and I had a family friend of ours back home in Oklahoma that said, "Hey man, you guys are fleet washing, you want to come wash our trucks?" So every couple weeks I would travel back home and I would wash their trucks for them. When I would come home to wash that small fleet, I noticed there was a bunch of trucks running up and down the road that were really dirty, and that no one around here was really doing this kind of work. So I realized a huge demand for it, and I started spending some time up here selling fleet washing. After about 4 days, I had $70,000 or $80,000 worth of work booked up. And I didn't know how that happened, but I knew I had to move back home, and this was going to be the real deal start to my business. After signing on a couple more fleets, I was at the $10,000 a month mark. And I really didn't know how I was going to service all these customers, but I knew I was going to figure it out. And that's where the hustle comes in. You just have to go out and work your ass off. So here are 5 steps that you can use to go from $0 to $10,000 a month in less than 3 months. Step number 1, you have to go all in. It gives you no other options but to make it work, and that's what I did. I have a lot of guys who call me who are weekend warriors, and they say, "Hey man, I'm just afraid to make that jump to quit my 9 to 5 and step all into this thing." But I promise you, that's when your business will actually take off, because you have all the time of every single day to put into yourself and into your business. If you're not in the financial position to go all in, you have to figure it out very, very quickly. Stack away some money so that you have a cushion to go through that period of not knowing what's going on. I went through that period for about 2 months before I finally started making a little bit of cash. Step number 2, buy the right equipment. Buy the best equipment that you can possibly afford at the time. Even if you only have $2,000 or $3,000, do some research, get on the Facebook groups, There's plenty of people who have done this and who will point you in the right direction of what you can get with the money that you have at the time. You can get a 2-step gun, the best chemicals, and a good pressure washer for less than $3,000. This $3,000 is going to be the foundation to you taking off in your business. Step number 3, hustle and learn. Hook onto your pressure washing shredder, go knock down some doors, meet some people. You never know what a connection is going to bring you. Just like Chris, when I was back down there in Dallas. It turned into a $60,000 job, and without me getting out of my truck and actually going and talking to him, that never would have happened. If you go knock on 100 doors, get 100 phone numbers, at least one of those guys is going to have you start washing their fleet for them. And during all this, you're going to learn what you're doing. After I bought all my fleet washing equipment, I had not a clue what I was doing. I figured it out while I was doing it. Step number 4, hustle some more and grow your customer base. Once you get your first washes under your belt, you'll be more confident in yourself. So going to another company and offering your services will be a breeze. When you're washing, talk to drivers, mechanics, boss mans, and ask for referrals to other companies and people who may be able to get you more jobs. The best thing about the trucking industry is that most everyone knows each other. Drivers hop around, people quit, go work other places, boss mans know other bosses. So that is the best way that you're going to get your name out there, as long as you're doing the best job that you can. When you're spending your free time selling, I found that it helps to mention names of companies and other people that you have worked for. And also when you show up, if you can have a name and number of a guy that's in charge at that place, you're more likely to get through the door and get to that person that you need to talk to. I've even skipped walking in the front door of the office, went right around to the shop and started talking to the mechanics. Keep in mind, mechanics don't like working on dirty trucks, and they are usually dealing with the fleet manager who is their boss. And then they can say, hey, fleet manager's right in his office over there, go talk to him, or they can give you his number or tell you to come back at a better time when the fleet manager is going to be there. You have to talk to the person in charge. Step number 5, make adjustments to become profitable and start stacking that cash. As you start growing your customer base, try to figure out what kind of money you need to make to become profitable. Keep track of your expenses, your income, and sit down at the end of your days and say, okay, this is exactly how much money I made, and this is how much time that I worked. It's important to know how much money you're making per hour and how much money you need to make to be profitable per hour. Once you start making good money, start saving it. A lot of guys, they'll make $4,000 or $5,000 and they think they can go buy a brand new pickup right off the bat. That's not the right move. Down the road, you're going to want to upgrade equipment, you're going to want to hire employees, and you're going to want to expand. This all takes a massive amount of money. To this day, it still blows my mind how much money it actually costs us to go out and make more. You have to save that money. Don't be afraid to raise your prices. If you're doing a really great job, your customers are happy with your service, they'll be more than willing to pay you a little bit more for what you're doing for them. Keep in mind, all these trucking companies you're working for are in business themselves, and they must be profitable to keep the doors open, and you have to be profitable too. Don't keep putting it off. Go all in, work your ass off, do the best job that you can, and in less than 3 months, you could be making $10,000 a month working for yourself.